Well, thank you for joining us today. It's been a little while since we've had a video to present to you. We've been dealing, as you know, with COVID and most recently the historic flooding that occurred. And that's what we'll talk about today is the impacts of the historic flood, especially on our facilities, Centennial Commons, and the pool. These facilities are important for the community and the organization as a whole. One of the aspects that we'll want to get into is what's the current status and what do we see for Centennial Commons and the pool moving forward. Today I have with me the Parks and Recreation Director, Darren Dunkle, who will provide us with an update on what's happening with Centennial Commons and what's happening with our pool. So Darren, thank you for joining me again today. It's been a little while since we had a chance to talk. I've received a number of questions about the status of Centennial Commons and the pool. I understand that it was severely damaged as a result of the historic flood that occurred back in July of last year. And since that time, I guess, can you give us a update as to what has happened and what do you see occurring in the near future for both Centennial Commons and the pool?
Yes, the historic flooding that we had on July 26th and again on July 28th of that week created some severe damages to both Centennial Commons and the pool. With Centennial Commons, the lower level of Centennial Commons where the free weights, the soccer facility, locker rooms were somewhere between 3-4 feet underwater at one given point in time. So we had damages to our electrical system, damages to our flooring, to our drywall, and to some plumbing in that area. In the upper part of Centennial Commons where our basketball court is, we had water that seeped in under the doors and got in underneath that wood floor, which caused it to buckle. Possible mold damage, that kind of stuff in there. So right after the flood, within the next week after the flood, we hired a company to come in to assist the city on cleaning up all the mud and mold, mildew, all those sorts of things, and to take out debris from our facility. That part of the work has been completed. It's been completed here for a few months on that aspect of it. On the restoration side of it, let me back up a little bit. When that occurred, our building was partially condemned for use of it, and it was condemned for public use, but we've been able to use some of the office use because that wasn't really affected by the flood as much. But what we've been doing since that time, we have been assessing all of our damages, putting costs associated with that. What would be the cost of repairs? We have been working with our insurance company, on damages caused by the flood. We've also been working with FEMA, and we have provided them a scope of work and cost estimates that we have gained. On that, they are reviewing the scope of work and those cost estimates. They have also sent out inspectors to walk through our facility on multiple occasions and look at what we turned in on our scope of work and damages and to what they see in the field and make sure those two things correlate. They are going through that review process right now to see if and what amount of money that might be given to the city for that to go towards those efforts. And in the meantime, like I said, we have been talking to various contractors, getting cost estimates. One of the biggest damage to Centennial Commons has been our electrical system. A big part of our electrical system was underwater with the flood, and there were some damages. Even though that some of the electric is still up and running at this time, whenever you have a flood, per our insurance and as well as per our city code, a lot of that electrical system has to be replaced. Not all of it, but just the portions affected by the flood. And so we are working on that process right now. We're also looking at, since the upper part of Centennial Commons really wasn't affected by the flood itself, there wasn't any damages to it. We are seeing if it's possible to have a partial opening of that, and that include the cardio fitness equipment, the track that's above the gym, and some of the meeting program rooms. But we are working with our electrical people, and they're going to be coming out doing a reassessment of that within the next week, seeing if we can move forward with that. And if that's happening, I think that can open in a fairly reasonable amount of time. While the other part would still be shut down, and we'd work towards the restoration efforts on that. With the first thing having to be the electric that's taken care of. And then once we get the electrical work done, then we'll be able to go back and do the drywall work and do some flooring work, those sort of things with Centennial Commons. On the pool, we had some of the similar issues with the pool. A big part of it is the electrical work with the pool. And the way that our pump house and everything is designed, all of our pool pumps and some of our electrical is basically located, lack of a better term, in a pit or in a basement of that building. All of that was completely underwater, as well as the lobby area and the locker rooms were up to 3 to 4 feet underwater. So there were some damages to some of the other areas as well. But electrical is the main one, as well as the pool pumps. We've already went out for the replacement of those pool pumps. That has been underway for several months. There was a lead time on supplies and materials on that, but we feel that we're in good shape on that. So we've already started that process. The rest of the process, again, we're working with the electricians to look at that side of the operation as well. What is it going to take to get that up and running, the time frame? Because our electrical panels from Heman Pool as well as CENTCOM are somewhat interconnected, as those two buildings are connected. So we have to see, can they be separated so that we can get one part open, or if it has to be full blown, everything has to be done at the same time. So those are some of the answers that we are waiting on, what can be done. We've also heard with the supply chain and the labor market, there might be some lead times on those sort of things. So I can't sit here and give you an exact time frame when this work will be completed and everything, but it is our goal to move as fast as we possibly can to get these facilities back open and running for our residents. But again, there are several things that play into that, such as, what really needs to be done, what's the supply chain, what funding is going to be available through the FEMA reimbursement, those sort of things. So that's where we're at this point.
So I know that I think we received an estimate. If we wanted to do all of the repairs for Centennial Commons, that would include the gymnasium. We're talking roughly $1 million,
Yes.
As I understand it. So I know that you're bidding those things out. My intention is to take those bids to the mayor and council. And for those where we receive favorable bids and it's really not a significant cost, taking those costs and asking the mayor and council to allow us to move forward with the repairs, understanding that places us at risk, that we won't get reimbursed from FEMA because we haven't gotten their authorization to move forward yet based upon our scopes of work. But as you know, my intention is to ask the council to allow us to work with the University City School District in a partnership that would provide free memberships in the future to students that are carrying a B average, also to students that are going to summer school. They would receive both free memberships to Centennial Commons as well as to the pool. So opening those facilities are extremely important to all of us. Let me ask you about our ball fields. I know that Joe Buck Field was severely damaged, but can you give me the status of Joe Buck Field, but also the other ball fields that we have?
Yeah. Actually, it's Jack Buck Field.
Jack Buck Field.
Yeah. Basically, Jack Buck Field it's our premier field located in Heman Park, and the main user of that field is the University City High School baseball team. We have other users that use that as well. But during the flood, it flooded out that whole area through there, so we have some severe damages to the field. That it took a lot of the topsoil and soil amendments off. In some areas of the outfield, you're looking at a foot and a half worth of material that had been washed away. The warning track in most places been washed away. We had damages to the infield. We had severe damages to our fencing. We have worked up cost estimates on that as well. We are working with Cardinals Care. As you may recall, Cardinals Care donated some funds to the city many years ago for improvements to the field, so we have reached out to them. We are working with them. We are looking at other grants for the possibility to help leverage funds, and we're also working with FEMA as well on that. So we have been working and reaching out to different vendors, getting cost estimates on that. We kind of like Centennial Commons on the pool. We hope to have restoration as soon as possible, but we are working towards those efforts with that. Outside of the Jack Buck field, we've had damage to some of our other baseball, softball fields as well. Not all of them, just certain locations like Field 6, which is mainly used for University City High School girls softball. There's ruts across that field, and that needs to be taken care of and renovated. And we had a couple other fields, but we still do have other fields that are playable and that can be used by the public.
Now, I'm also aware that we've been trying to work with our school district for their summer ball program that we've assisted them with trying to find locations. And for the fields that we have, we could also still, they could still be used for practice, and they can be modified for competitive play.
Yeah, basically with the flood that happened in July, girls softball happens in the fall, and they usually start their practices in August. We reach out to the school district at that point, and the main field, like I said, that Field 6 is where they usually have the girls' practices and games, was unavailable due to the damages of the flood. However, we were able to work with their coaches and their staff, and we were able to provide another field for those purposes, and that got us all the way through the fall. With the boys' baseball, similar, we have reached out to the school district, making them aware of the damages to Jack Buck Field, and that wouldn't be playable for this season. However, we do have other fields within our system, for their practices and stuff. And from a game standpoint, it might be a little more difficult, on that, just due to some of the size of the fields and some of the requirements of the state, but there's some things that we could do. We have also reached out to them and gave them contacts to other cities and other facilities that they could work with, for their games. So again, we're hoping, we're willing to work with anyone to try to make whatever accommodations that we can within our power, but at the same time, we are working diligently behind the scenes to try to get these facilities back up and running.
Okay. One final question. Tell me about the remainder of our parks. I know that all of the parks, or the majority of them, certainly received some flood damage, but are they in pretty good shape for people to go and visit and recreate there?
Yeah, I'd say the majority of our parks are in really good shape. There are still some areas that were damaged, other than the baseball fields and the pool and Centennial Commons. Our dog park had some damages there, mainly to the fencing. We've been able to come in and kind of isolate some areas. It was kind of broken down into 3 different areas: large dogs, small dogs, and kind of a combination area. But we've been able to keep open some of those parts for our residents to use, while the others were closed down, and we're still working on those fencing repairs for the dog park. Other areas of our park system that were affected, the Mona Trail, it goes along the River de Pere, and there was some string bank erosion in those areas that affected a little portion of that trail. The park is still usable. We are working again with FEMA. We've identified the issues there and trying to get some reimbursement so that we can get that repaired, but the rest of it is still usable. All of our other, really outside of Heman Park and Mona and the dog park, the rest of our parks really weren't that greatly affected by the flood, so they're still in really good shape and available to the public. We are currently renting out pavilions for this spring and summer for events. My staff is working with our usual athletic associations who use our fields during the summer. Like I said, besides Field 6 and Jack Buck, the rest of them are being used, and even those groups that use Jack Buck and Field 6, we're trying to make accommodations in other fields for them for their use. So all in all, I think we're up and running.
Well, great. And thank you for being with me again. Look forward to doing this more frequently and updating our viewers and our citizens and our residents on what's going on within University City. Thank you.
All right, thank you.